Obviously, we were able to go 1-0 last week, which is our goal every single week. Started out the season with a win against Akron, then went to Pitt, then to Georgia State, and feel fortunate that we were able to find a way to be successful each week. So excited about that. Let me talk right now and kind of get it out of the way so we can move on, talk about field goal gate or timeout gate or whatever you guys want to call it. How that whole thing played out. Be very clear, I was not icing anyone. I want to be as clear as I possibly can be. We had our fourth team defense, some threes, mostly fours on the field. We have never, I've been doing this 23 years, we've never worked a fourth team field goal block. I'm on the headset, the defense is talking about how those guys won't even know how to line up. I'm shaking my head. The recommendation is to get the second team in there. I call the timeout. We get the second team on the field, and from that point on, we're going to go block the kick. Chris has sent me some things. People said, that, when the score's 56-0, that we should just stand there and let someone kick it through the uprights. If that's how you think and how you feel, then you won't ever understand me and you won't ever understand us. Whether it's the first play of the game or whether it's the last play of the game, or whether we're losing or whether we're winning, or whether it's raining or whether it's sunny, we are going to fight for every inch on the field, every yard on the field, every second on the clock. We're going to fight. We have a standard of how we do things. So if people don't think that we should go block the kick at the end of the game because of the score, then you probably won't understand us. But we have a standard of how we do things, and I want our guys to do that on the football field, and I want them to do that in life. You have a bad day, you still got to go to work in the morning. Something bad happens at work, you still got to come home and be a great father and a great husband. The situation, the element should not affect our standard and how we do things. So it's their job to try to score. It's our job to try to keep them out of the end zone. It's not a whole lot more than that. This has become a thing, but that's really what it is. We have a standard of how we do things. It will be that way today, and it will be that way as long as I'm here. I'm going to move on now. Is everybody okay with that? A few other things about Georgia State. Offensively, Trace McSorley was our player of the week on offense. His stats. I don't need to list those things out to you. Defensively, our safety Marcus Allen was our MVP of the game, and then on special teams we went with both Tyler Davis and Blake Gilligan. We think we're kicking the ball really well right now, doing some really good things on special teams. I'd make the argument that's probably the area where we're most improved and has had as much of an impact on our season, our early season so far. In general, we were able to play a lot of guys. I think we played 78 players in the game. Our kickoff team has been excellent all year long. It's fun to watch. I think when you kick off as many times as we kicked off on Saturday, and you can watch, the sixth kickoff, and the guys are still full speed flying down the field. That is a great way to evaluate. I remember when I was a young coach listening to some old ball coaches who've been doing it a long time, and they said one of the great ways to tell what type of team you have is, say it's the fifth or sixth field goal block, or PAT, PAT. Is your team still going as hard, on the sixth PAT field goal block as they are earlier in the game? That's a great sign of the type of team you have, and I think the same thing shows up on kickoff. Brandon Polk, very pleased with his overall development right now, how he's playing, his enthusiasm, his enthusiasm for his teammates, the effort he's playing with. If you watch that play with Saquon Barkley, we all know how fast Saquon is. Watch Brandon Polk. He's on the opposite side of the field. He sprints down, catches Saquon, and gets in front of a defender, and then goes into the end zone and celebrates and he's as happy or more happy than Saquon is. So I'm very pleased with him. Offensively, you know, one of our issues last year was starting out slow. You know, we've been able to be better in that area. We're still very explosive. You know, defensively, you know, we're giving up some yards, but I think we're playing really good defense. We're getting turnovers. We're keeping people out of the end zone. And then special teams, I just think has been fantastic. Our coverage units and our drive start differential from our offense compared to our opponent's offense has been a dramatic factor in the game. So pleased with what's going on. Kind of move on to Iowa. Obviously, tremendous respect for their program. Coach Ferentz, you know, you look at their record, you know, I think their record over top 10 opponents at home, especially playing at night, is going to be a challenge. I've never been there. I want to educate our players. I want to educate myself on what to expect. I've talked to a lot of people. I've called a lot of people. I've asked a lot of questions. It's going to be, that place is going to be rocking Saturday night. Their sidelines are very tight. The fans are going to be right up against you. We want to get our players prepared for that. We got to get ready for the noise. You know, we'll be trying to replicate their band and whatever songs they play in the stadium, try to get our guys ready for that for our first road game this year. Obviously, one of the cooler kind of historical things in college football and from a tradition standpoint is their pink locker room. I think it's awesome. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it with our guys. I'm gonna talk to our guys about it being a really, really nice gesture by the University of Iowa to welcome Penn State, since our original school colors are pink and black, and how wonderful it is, and what a wonderful gesture it is that they painted their locker room pink for us. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I'm going to say it that way, kind of, you know, have fun with it, and then just kind of move on. But, you know, obviously, you know, Coach Ferentz, you know, his tenure, one of the more consistent teams in all of college football. You know, you look at what they've been able to do, not only against Penn State in our last 10 games, but also against ranked opponents. You're talking about a blue-collar team that takes a lot of pride in their fundamentals and their techniques and being sound and how hard they play. You know, really, in some ways, similar to our history and our traditions. You know, you think about last year after you know, they came and played here the next week, you know, a night game. I remember watching it last year, and they upset Michigan, who I think was number 5 at the team at their place. So, you know, it's going to be a tremendous challenge. You know, there's no doubt about it, and we're looking forward to it.
Start with Rich Scarcella from the Reading Eagles.
Good afternoon, James.
Hey, Rich, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Really good.
After the game Saturday, you mentioned you had some concerns about your run defense. I know the last 2 opponents have run for 150 yards against you. Will Iowa provide even a stern test for that run defense this week, and why?
Yeah, I think that, you know, after going back and watching the tape, you know, I would love to see us give up a few less yards, but most importantly, we're getting turnovers and keeping people out of the end zone. But yeah, I think, you know, obviously this is what Iowa prides themselves on, is running the ball and being really physical up front. Coach Ferentz is one of the more well-respected line coaches in the country from his NFL time, as well as, you know, his teams. They've always been great up front. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge. You know, they're a big tight end team. They got one of the better running backs in the country, young man out of New Jersey. So it's going to be a challenge, there's no doubt. You know, obviously it's a little bit different. You're not facing a team that's, you know, a spread team or an RPO team. They're more of a traditional offense, you know, like a Michigan, like a Michigan State, like a Stanford. Iowa's going to get up and they're going to line up and they're going to try to pound you from multiple personnel groups. They're probably, with Brian now being the coordinator, they're probably a little bit more multiple when it comes to motions and shifts, but they're going to try to run the inside zone on you. They're going to try to, you know, if they feel like they got leverage, they're going to try to run the stretch play on you and get on the edge and cover guys up, and the back's patient enough to find a seam and then hit it. We've all seen that he's a playmaker. You know, and then they got a big, strong-arm quarterback that they're able to take advantage of off the play-action pass. So, you know, it's going to be a real challenge for our defense. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Bob Flounders, Harrisburg Patriot News.
Hello, James. How you doing?
Good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, James.
you didn't have Amani at corner against Georgia State, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on your two true freshman corners that have been playing a lot, Tariq Felix and Lamont Wade. I know Tariq had that athletic interception that he made. Not only how they played last Saturday, but just your thoughts on what they've shown you the first 3 games and on the practice field.
Yeah, I think, obviously we've been able to get to know Lamont over a longer period of time in terms of being on our campus and in our program, with him graduating early and being here for spring ball. And, there's been an excitement and a buzz about him, not only through the whole recruiting process, but then got on campus and backed it up. So we're excited about him. I think his role will continue to grow as the season goes on. He's a confident guy. He's a mature guy. He's a playmaker. But he's learning every single day at practice, and he's learning every game. And I think Castro's the same way. Obviously, he showed up here, in more of a traditional sense, in the summer, taking summer classes, and then in camp. But it was pretty obvious early on. Long kid who can run, who's got good ball skills, who's mature, who's intelligent. And it was obvious that he wanted to play and was willing to do the things necessary to play. So, we're excited. Z-Mac, we got a bunch of guys that are young guys that we're excited about, that are playing well for us. So, I expect that as the year goes on, that those guys continue to play more and have larger impacts.
Derek Tavares, Wilkes-Barre Times leader.
Hi, James. Good afternoon.
Hey, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing great. James, it was late in last year's Iowa game that people got a preview of what you could do with Trace and Tommy, both on the field at the same time. How much would you say that package has grown or evolved in the past year, and how much pressure can that put on the defense with both of them out there?
Well, I think it does a number of things. It allows us to get another guy involved in our game plan. It allows us to get Tommy game experience and get him on the field, which is always a challenging thing to do at the quarterback position. How do you get guys meaningful reps without throwing off the flow of your offense? It puts another weapon on the field. He's a big, strong, fast guy, and then obviously they have to be concerned about him throwing the ball as well. So it makes a defense tentative when you got a quarterback like that carrying the ball. And you have to have in the back of your mind that this guy can throw it at any moment, which is going to make you a little bit tentative in terms of how hard you run support. So it's a nice package. It's something that we've kind of been messing around with for a while now, and we got a bunch of accumulated reps in practice, and and I've now obviously been able to use it in the game, and we got a lot of different ways and a lot of different things that we can do and that we've done in practice. So I think this package will just continue to evolve. What's nice about him is, he can play like a receiver, he can play like a running back, he can play like a quarterback, and we've used him in almost all of those ways. So I don't think there's any doubt that it creates stress on a defense.
Mark Wogenrich, Downtown Morning Call.
Hi, James. How are you today?
Good, Mark. How are you, buddy?
Good. You addressed this earlier about the pink locker rooms at Iowa. I wanted though to ask you from your degree in psychology perspective, what effect does something like that have on a football team event?
I think it's awesome. I do. I think it's awesome. We just got done painting our house. My daughter Shola went with like a teal blue. Would that be right? Is teal considered in the blue family? She went with teal blue, and my youngest daughter Addie went with pink. And it looks great in my daughter Addie's bedroom, and I think it's probably going to look really cool in their locker room.
Frank Bodeni, your Daily Record.
Hey, good afternoon, James.
Hey, Frank, how are you?
Look good, real good. Your offensive line, how would you compare how those guys are performing now compared to the second half of last year? And it seems to be some struggles in the run game, but how do you, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think not having man last week, caused some challenges for us. On top of that, we moved Gonzalez over to the opposite guard, and I think that affected him a little bit. So we weren't as clean as we've been. Having man back, I think, will be really helpful. And then let's be honest. I mean, everybody's going into the game plan, and their defensive model is to say we're not going to allow Saquon Barkley to run the ball and beat us. So I think we've been creative enough to try to get him the ball in different ways, and he's been impactful that way. But I don't think there's any doubt that we have to get better at consistently running the ball between the tackles. And I think having Man back, who's such an experienced player and such a strong physical guy, that we feel good about. We feel good about what we do. But I think that's fair. That's an area that we need to improve on offense. That and third down.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hey there, James.
Hey Joe, how are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
Really good.
Your Big Ten opener last year was on the road at Michigan, and obviously that didn't go too well. I just wondered, were there any lessons learned from that game that you can apply for this year's opener at Iowa, especially to raise the level of your preparation and play now that you're in the Big Ten schedule?
Yeah, I think as you guys know, each season stands alone, each game stands alone. We're going to do everything we possibly can to prepare, to show our guys what it's like to go on the road. But we got a much older, more mature team right now that has played a bunch of games on the road in Big Ten venues. So I think we'll be more prepared just from an experience standpoint. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. That obviously we have learned based on a lot of different past experiences.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers.
Good afternoon, James.
Hey Mike, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
Really good.
Gross Matos is a guy who got a lot of snaps on Saturday. It looked to me like he played pretty well. I remember a couple weeks ago you said that he has a great motor, great talent and all that, but he doesn't really understand what he's doing yet. Is getting him so much work Saturday, is that a reflection that he's starting to figure it out, or is that a reflection that you're trying to get him work so that he can figure it out?
Probably a combination of both. We're trying to speed up his maturation process as much as we possibly can. As you can imagine, you're playing big-time college football, the speed of the game, the size, the strength, all the different, subtle adjustments that he needs to make on how he takes a block on, whether he's wrong shouldering it, whether he's hard joining it, whatever we're asking him to do, the details are so important. I mean, the details are going to probably determine whether it's a tackle for a loss or whether you give up an explosive run. A guy doesn't hit his gap correctly. You got a defensive end who's long sticking from the defensive end spot down to the A gap, and he doesn't get there and doesn't fight across the guard's face or or whatever it may be, and doesn't get to his gap, or if he doesn't get to his gap, he doesn't squeeze the offensive lineman into his gap, and then all of a sudden you get creased for 30 yards. So, just understanding some things that you could get away with in high school, you can't get away with in college. So he's a great kid, he's a smart kid, he's going to be a really good football player, and we're just trying to speed his maturation process up as much as we possibly can. But it was cool. We had a bunch of guys get in there and play well, and it's nice because you watch scout team and there's guys showing up, and then some of those scout team guys were able to get in the game and and played really well and made an argument for themselves as well. So we got some young guys that we're excited about, and he's definitely one of those guys.
We'll open up to questions here in the room. Raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you.
Hey James, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. I want to ask you about the running game. How would you quantify progress in the running game? Is it something you see? Is it an eye test thing? Or is there a statistic you can look at and say, okay, we are better now here versus where we were?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of both, but I also think the eye test is important because you look at what people are doing to defend us with the number of guys in the box, with last week people basically aggressively run fitting us, not allowing us to stay on the double team and running the linebackers through the A or B gaps. And you got Will Fry starting to guard for the first time, and his coaches were telling him to get as much movement on the double team as you possibly can up to the linebacker. Well, you know, as he's trying to do that, the linebacker's screaming through the hole and coming clean. You know, so you know, it's a process. You know, I think obviously when you have moving parts and you have a guy starting for the first time in there, you know, there's some growing pains that you're going to have with that. But I also think, like I said in the beginning, I also think it's a factor that people go into games just like we go into games saying that we're not going to allow this guy to beat us. We're going to force this player or this scheme or whatever it may be. I mean, that's football 101 for defensive coordinators. They're going to try to make you one-dimensional. So if you're a team that throws the ball all the time, they're going to drop 8, make it difficult for you to throw into those you know, scenarios. Or if you're a team that prides yourself on running the ball, they're going to try to take that away from you. You know, whatever your strength is, you try to take that away from them and make them beat you with what is considered not their strength. So I think a lot of people are saying, obviously Saquon Barkley is a special player, and you know, our whole defensive game plan is going to be about stopping him and forcing other players to beat him. You know, for us, we're fortunate because we have a number of players that I think are weapons and that we can beat people with, which makes that a challenge. But I think once again, if you had to choose, you're going to say you're going to do everything you can to stop Saquon Barkley, or you're going to play just soft and keep everything in front of you and say, okay, he's going to get his runs, but he's not going to get a 50-yard run. They're going to get their passes, but they're not going to get a 50-yard pass. You know, you kind of have one of two different philosophies that you see week by week different people take.
James, I grew up with a pink bedroom. I think I maybe turned out okay. We'll see. But what I wanted to ask you about, sticking with the run game, how do you feel right now about your number 2 running backs, given the fumbling, but also both scoring explosive touchdowns?
I think both those guys have a very, very bright future. You know, Miles, I thought his run was excellent. I thought Andre's run was really, really good. We got 2 guys, you know, just like we're kind of talking about the quarterback position. You know, we got 2 other guys there that have shown, you know, that they're able to do it and do it at a high level and be consistent. You know, so you know we're going to need them throughout the season. So you know, we're fortunate and we're blessed. But once again, I think the programs that we want to compare ourselves to, you know, most programs have 3 or 4 big-time running backs that you feel like you can get in there, and they have a chance to make big plays. So you know, we couldn't be more happy with the depth that Coach Huff has built in terms of development and things like that, you know, at our running back position.
James, so I mean, 2-part question. You've already talked
How you doing?
about. Good. How are you?
Good.
So you've already talked about like Wadley being the explosive player in our offense. You said
Just say it again.
like Wadley being
Yes,
a great player on offense. And then when you say Josie Jewell's that player on defense, and I remember over the summer you said you guys already game planned for 4 games. At this point, when you're in that 4th game, how much has that changed now? You've seen Nate Stanley and a new quarterback and new offense in that.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, I think Josie Jewell, there's no doubt that he's the leader and the bell cow of their defense. Very instinctive player, very physical player. You know, very productive player over his career there. You know, I don't think there's any doubt about it. You know, he makes their defense go from a leadership and from a playmaking perspective. And then, you know, I think your other point is about the game plans. Yeah, you do those game plans in the summer, and then you look at them the week of. But it's not like you say, okay, well the game plan's done. You know, let's go home at 6 o'clock. You know, you're looking at that, and then you're watching the most current, the most up-to-date tape you possibly can to say, are they who we thought they were? Are they consistent with who they've been in the past? And you know, is there some stuff that we were doing in the summer that we think is still relevant in this game plan? But the other thing that happens is you may go into the beginning of the season thinking you're going to be a really good outside zone team, and then as the season develops, you're really good at inside zone, or you're really good at something that you weren't really anticipating. It's just how the season and the team evolves. So you know, your game plan is based on that. Your game plan is on the video evidence of what you see that Iowa's done the last 3 games, or 4 games, including the bowl game. And then you know, obviously who you are as a team and what your strengths and what your weaknesses are and matchups and things like that.
Yep.
James, how are you?
Really good.
I took from the open that there were no regrets about the end of the timeout at the end of the game the other night. I'm just asking that you pride yourself on having a feel for what's being written, said about the program, and I'm just wondering your reaction to the reaction, and also if you're concerned about the perception of piling on.
Yeah, I control the things that I can control. That's not one of them.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, question. You guys have faced, defensively, you've played like 55 third downs in 3 games. You've faced 55 of them. That's like 18, over 18 a game. Right. Is that a concerning number? Like, I'm just asking from a general perspective. Like, is that a high number perspective?
You talk about for our defense?
From a defensive perspective, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you really want your number of third downs to be as high as possible. Just like I've said in the past, on offense, you know, what you want to do is you want to eliminate as many third downs. You want to get as many first downs as you can on first and second down and not have that many third downs. That's what the best offenses usually do. So the fact that our defense is getting people to third down, I think is a positive. Now, the next step is we got to get off the field so that you don't have a 15-play drive and have 3 or 4 third downs in one drive. So I think the first step is getting people to third down. Not allowing first downs on first and second down, and then being able to get off the field, which is the next step for us. You know, and I think we did a better job with turnovers. You know, I think we're doing a better job at this point in the season on turnovers, but I do think we can still be better on third down. There's no doubt about it.
Hey James, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. When you look at Tyler's misses, is that a virtue of the hold? Did he just miss the kick? Because he's been pretty consistent, but the times that he has struggled or has just not made the kicks or they've been blocked have been when he's had to deal with a holder that was someone other than Chris, and obviously you don't have him anymore. But how do you kind of break that whole situation down?
Yeah, you know, what I love about Tyler is he's a mature kid and he's very honest. You know, he missed the one on Saturday. He came to the sideline and he goes, "That one's on me. I just missed it." And to me, as a coach, there's a lot of value in that. You got a guy that is going to say, I just mishit it. I just, you know, rather than the guy that every time he misses it, it's the snapper or it's the hold or it's the wind or it's the rain or whatever it is. Tyler's a guy that you're going to get really good feedback. You know, if he missed it, he's going to say he missed it. If he felt like they missed the spot, but he still should have made it, he'll say that. You know, maybe we missed the spot a little bit, but I still should have made the kick, or you know, the snap threw my rhythm off, but I still got to get it through the uprights or whatever. And typically, what he says when we watch the film, you know, he's usually right on point. But that's also a mature player who's been there. You know, been there, you know, a lot. So we have a new snapper and we got a new holder, and that factors in. But the most important thing is you know, we just got to get, you know, them as comfortable as we possibly can as the season continues to progress. And I think they're in a really good place. But there is some of that factors into it. I think, you know, how many has he missed on? 2 this year? I think the first one was a bobbled hold, didn't get down clean, and the second one was on him. And when I say a bobble hold, I mean a combination snap hold. You know, as we all know, it takes all 3 of those phases working together.
Hey James, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Awesome.
Good haircut.
Yeah, I did.
Looks nice.
I was hoping you'd notice. After the game, you had mentioned that you expect to have a man back. I wanted to make sure that that's still the case. Is Cam Brown in that situation as well? And from the questions we have to ask, can you give us any update on Torrance?
Yeah, we expect Man and Cam Brown back. At this point, I don't really have any updates with Torrance. You know, I'll probably have more information down the line. That's not tomorrow after practice, but I'll have more information down the line. But at this point, I don't have anything more substantial for you.
Hey, Coach, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Thanks. Hey, so you had some questions earlier about the offensive line, and just in general, you know, not too long ago, it was not the strongest part of the team. Now it's actually the depth that you have and the strength and the numbers that, you know, the skill players are putting up. Just talk about the progression that the offensive line has made in the past couple seasons towards that.
I think Matt's done a tremendous job. Matt Linegrover, our offensive line coach, has done a great job. I think the players themselves have taken a lot of pride in how they play and how they practice and how they prepare. I think they've had a chip on their shoulder because, you know, as we all know, the first couple of years we didn't play the way we want to play for a number of reasons. I think even like you look at Saturday, I don't think we gave up a sack. I think there was one sack that came up in the stats, but I think it was on the backwards pass. That ended up being calculated as a sack, but from a coaching perspective, I don't really look at it that way. So I think we've improved. Is there still area for improvement? Is there still area for growth? There's no doubt about it. We have got to limit the negative yardage plays. We got to be cleaner. We got to be more physical. We got to be able to impose our will a little bit more consistently. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But once again, we just got to continue to get better each week as the season goes on, and then also keep things in the perspective of what people are doing against us defensively. I mean, no different. I think a perfect way to illustrate what I'm talking about is, I don't know whether it was the first game or the second game, where we ran like 12 or 15 plays on offense and Saquon Barkley never touched the ball. And you're sitting there saying to yourself, well, how could that happen? They need to hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley and run. Well, they're run-pass options, and if we're reading outside linebacker and he's folding into the boxes as aggressively as you possibly can, we're going to pull the ball and throw the ball in the perimeter. So I think it's a combination of all those things. But yeah, I think we can definitely be better, and it's going to be a focus and an emphasis on running the ball between the tackles.
How's it going, Coach?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. What caught your eye about Daniel Joseph on the recruiting trail, and where is he in year 2 in his development?
Yeah, he was one of the guys that I was going to mention when we were talking about Etor Matos getting a bunch more reps in the game, and then we had some guys that got in the game, and have opened some eyes on the scout team and have opened some eyes, when they got in the game. I mean, he was very productive when he got in the game. Had a really good meeting 2 weeks ago with Daniel and his mom and dad from Canada. They were in for a game, and we met after the game, and they just wanted to update on where he's at academically, where he's at socially, where he's at football-wise. But he's another guy. He's a big, strong, physical guy. He's a skinny 250 pounds with some of the longest arms on our team. Was very productive when he got in the game, and we think he's got a really, really bright future. We really do. His first year, he had some nagging injuries that kept him out of practice and I think slowed down a little bit of his development his freshman year. But he's really shown some nice things this season, and we're excited about what he's not only going to do this year, but years moving forward as well.
Over here, James.
Hey, Mike.
Hey. Saquon's average touch has almost doubled in yards this year compared to last year. What are the pluses? You're talking about negative runs, but what are the pluses of that he's much more efficient, he's healthier, and at what point does you go, that's who we are?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is scheme. So, and don't take that the wrong way. I mean, I don't need to sit here and probably say to you guys that Saquon Barkley is pretty good. I mean, so when I say scheme, I'm not taking anything away from Saquon, but my point is with what we do in the run-pass options, he's usually running into good looks, where now he's one-on-one with a safety or a corner, and now it's his job to block that one-on-block defender and make a big play. And he's really good at that, obviously. So I think that's a factor. I think he is 2 years ago. I think we all remember he had a bunch of explosive runs where he would get caught. And he said in the off season, that's an area I want to improve. I want to be able to finish runs and things like that. So that's a factor. But I think you're exactly right in terms of what is our identity. That's our identity. We're an explosive, big play offense in the passing game and in the run game. And if you're looking to watch a 3 yards and a cloud of dust offense, then this probably isn't the scheme for you. But I'd also make the argument that was one of our big off-season studies, is how do we get better with 4-minute offense? And you read all the coaching books from the beginning of time, and you go to all the clinics, and 4-minute offense is you run the ball, you milk the clock, and you win the game on your terms, and you line up in victory formation of 22 personnel, you take the snap from under center, which people tell me that all the time, and then you kneel it down, you flip the ball to the official, and the game's over. Well, I think, one of the mistakes that we made last year is we tried to be a 4-minute offense in 4-minute situations, And that's not who we are. You can't say at a critical time in a game, we're going to now become something that we never are. So for us, it's not losing our identity in short yardage, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 situation. Not losing our identity. Just because it's 3rd and 1 doesn't mean you have to cram it up in there where there isn't a hole. It doesn't mean you have to run the ball every play in 4-minute offense. Now you have to throw high percentage passes and things like that. But I think that's one of the things that I think we looked at. I think is the point that you're making is, let's really own our identity. That's one of the things that I love about being a head football coach is all the different personalities that I get to deal with every single day on the coaching staff and with the players. And one of the things I've always been attracted to people that own who they are. They're either really cool, they're really weird, and I love those people. I love the people on the extremes that kind of own who they are and are very comfortable in their own skin. And I think that's what we have to do on offense and defense and special teams. That doesn't mean you can't identify weaknesses in areas you say you want to get better at, but also owning who you are. Owning how you're going to handle situations at the end of games. Owning how you're going to run your offense, defense, and special teams. Owning those things, I think there's a lot of value in that.